Hey guys, what's going on? Jimmy the Owl here. Welcome to I Tried Playing, a series on my channel where I try playing a game to see if it's worth it or not. Today we got Enotria, the last song demo that recently just dropped on Steam. This shit wasn't even on my radar until a friend pointed it out to me, and I'm really happy he did. So far, I've really enjoyed my experience overall. I'm just going to give a quick rundown of everything the demo had to offer to me, my experiences, the things that I broke, the things that I didn't break, the things that I like, and the things that I didn't like. We'll start with the tutorial first. The tutorial does what it says on the tin. It teaches you everything you need to know about the game: parrying, blocking, heavy attack, light attack, magic, dodging, fucking running, all the stuff that you'll need to know while you're out in the open trying to survive for yourself, as well as having a good tutorial boss, which is really easy in my opinion. But I understand the idea of having a nice easy gateway into the game, not cock blocking or just simply not letting anyone through into the main game, just letting people have a nice introduction to what a boss fight is in this game and how it's going to work, as well as letting them practice their parries and attacks and having a easier, simple understanding instead of thrusting them into the deep end and not giving them much room to swim. I would have liked it a bit harder, but as it stands, it's still a good tutorial boss to get you into the game. But sadly, not long after this boss, I broke the game. So this one's mostly me, but I will throw some blame at the game, because up until this point, every tip stayed on the screen until I did what it asked. Parrying, dodging, all that stuff stayed on the screen until I did it, and this one time, it doesn't stay on the screen until you do it, so I miss how to break these pallets down, trying to fix the FPS problems I was having with this game, which again, was my fault. I forgot to update drivers and needed to restart my computer for a Windows update, and those fixed the problems. So there was an issue involved here where I thought the game running poorly because it froze for a couple of seconds before loading the area missed a trigger. To fix this, my big brain went, if I use the item that gets rid of your souls but teleports you back to the safe location, might reset the trigger and let me play the game. Except it teleported me forward through the tutorial, past the pallet and up an elevator, have no clue how much I missed, and this needs looking into because it's kind of wild you can just do that by accident. It's a wild skip. It's just a weird one that you can do accidentally, and these are the skips that I would say are bad for the game, because the average Joe like me managed to pull this off completely and utterly by accident. Once the tutorial is done, you're out into the actual game, and from the demo, the game seems very linear in nature. It seems like you have an area that has multiple pathways to go down, but those pathways are only ever going to lead to an extra item or two, and majority of the time, you're going to focus your direction going forward, not really being able to openly explore this massive area, but more have a smaller, more condensed area with an actual feeling to it, with multiple items to find along the way, with not much emptiness or nothing's happening in between, and the quiet sections being a very nice change of pace from the action and combat and looting that's going on outside of those. I do like this. I like this return to form for a Souls game. I'm very sick of the open-esque empty worlds that we've been getting lately, and this seems to be trying to change that up. The areas, the two that you have, well, you have the tutorial area, which is like a cave, the open fields and beach area with the castle area, and then the tomb area behind it with the crypt and stuff and all the trees. So far look beautiful, stunning, and different. No area seems the same. All areas seem to be different. This demo is really showing the true colors of this game. We are in for a fucking treat. Enemy variety also seems to be at a decent level. Not too many different enemies, but enough to keep you interested. Both areas had different enemies. Even the tutorial had different enemies to the outside, as well as there's some unique enemies mixed in between those areas. It seems like there's going to be a nice variety of enemies that I'm going to love to try and take down and fight. The one complaint I do have against this, though, is the weaponry. The biggest complaint I have is everything just feels so slow compared to what the enemies can do. It might have been just the weapons I was using, to be fair. I used the mace, and then I used two great weapons and a longsword. The longsword seemed alright, but overall weapons seem to attack a lot slower and be a little bit too clunky for my liking, so I'm gonna have to find the perfect balance of weaponry that I would want to use within this game. Definitely not looking like a heavy weapons kind of game. For me, it's just way too slow and way too clunky. That's my biggest complaint so far with the game, and then that's when if that's your biggest complaint, where the heavy weapons are just too slow, it's not that bad right now, and they can always tune that up if they get the feedback that heavy weapons aren't performing as expected, which I just don't feel like they are. My mace isn't even a heavy weapon, and it attacks fucking abysmally slow. I'm hoping that gets looked into. Something I forgot to mention about the masks and loadouts was that I mentioned that you could tail your build towards what you wanted to do with these masks and these set loadouts. You could pick these extra stats and whatnot. One thing I forgot to mention was the fact that you have 4 spells that you can use at any point, and these go from being able to buff your weapon with a swap strike to being able to summon a phantom crossbow, so on and so forth, all the way to being able to cast devastating magic spells like the one you get at the very beginning of the game, where you just pull out a staff and summon 4 red balls, and whatever those balls touch just decimate and die instantly. Seems like mage builds might be fun, especially seeming you can't just sit there and spam abilities. To get these things up, you first need to attack the enemy, and by hitting them a couple of times, you'll charge up a bar, and every spell has a different amount that you need to charge up for. For example, there's a shield one that I used at the very end of the demo that absolutely decimated. Like, it was such a strong one, seeming I'm not spec'd into using any of those abilities. I didn't put any points into any magic stats, but that shield one decimated still, but it took forever to charge up. I got to use it twice in one boss, and that boss fight went on for a while. But they do seem interesting, and I'm very intrigued to see where they go and what they add. I'm mostly going to probably just keep it for weapon buffs and stuff like the odd ones like the shield charge that don't need a lot of stat investment to do decent damage. But I will keep an eye on them because they are very interesting, and I am intrigued what they do and where they go and how good they get, or if they're just like a novelty thing I never use. The last thing the demo has to offer is the bosses that you're going to be fighting. You have the tutorial boss, which I said is kind of a walkover, but is a good idea just so people can access the game and have an experience of a boss fight. The second boss was a little bit more difficult, but kind of mimics the enemies outside of his room, so you already have an inkling on how to fight him as soon as you enter the room, and he starts copying the moves of the enemies you've already fought, which was kind of a letdown, but he does have a spear over the mace, which means he has a different jab instead of slam. So he kind of has some sort of a different move, and his shield slam is literally, again, a carbon copy of what the enemies were using outside. So if you were paying attention to the big enemies outside and fighting them, you'll get the dodge pattern downs really easily and instantly be able to triumph over this boss without much of a situation of failing, which is kind of sad. I really wish the second boss was something a bit more interesting. Where the second boss fails, the third boss picks up in heaps. The third boss to me is a pinnacle Souls-like boss. It does everything you need it to do. It's difficult, it's cool, it's unique, it's interesting, the boss arena is cool, his design is cool, his moves are cool, especially when he hits the second phase and starts using a lot more magic, sends balls from the sky that erupt in fucking beams of lightning and energy, shooting energy beams from his eyes, fucking sending a shockwave that you gotta jump over. It is so fun, and I love every second of it. The first phase as well is just as fun, and by the time you've learned the first phase and get the second, you realize, oh fuck me, I've got a second phase to learn, because moves that were safe on the first aren't safe on the second. This is gonna get difficult, and I love that. I love them having me on my feet constantly, trying to make me figure out what I want to do. Now, this is where the game can become make or break. If the game consists of more of the second boss, just a normal enemy in a boss room, it's going to fall flat, and it's not going to be as enjoyable, but it'll still be a fun run. If the game can continue with this third boss and keep moving towards very interesting, very unique boss fights that, you know, keep upping the ante and being difficult, then we have a contender for a very solid, probably one of the better non-From Software Souls-like that we've played in a while. If we get a mixture of the two, we'll get a Lords of the Fallen, where there was some good boss fights, but a majority of them was just enemies in a boss room. If we can strike a nice balance, that would be nice, but I would really like to see more of the third boss, less of the second boss, but who knows where this goes. But I'm really hopeful, and can't wait to see what comes of it on the 18th. I think the game comes out on the 18th of September, so I really can't wait to see what quality of bosses we get, and I'm really hoping they stick with the third more than the second. A little bonus round, I did manage to break the game every once in a while. There was a few moments where I just kind of got over things I shouldn't have, like in the castle area. There's like a small box area that you're not supposed to get into without going through a big gate that says it's locked, but I managed to just jump over some crates and get in there, and that got me a key, and I don't know what that key was used for, but I got in there before I was supposed to. Then there was the tomb area that had a little skip in it where you can jump on a branch and go kind of out of bounds, and from there you can mount the rooftops and come out in an area that I don't know how you get to normally because I never figured it out. It seemed like there was an underground system that you were supposed to go through to get there. So I managed to break the game a little. It'll be interesting to see how breakable the game is on launch when all the areas are there and how skippy you can be with it. I'm going to try and play it normally, but I'm also going to try and see when I see some way to skip something, I'm going to try it anyway and then backtrack through it just to make sure I unlock some things that I would have missed, because in the demo I was just playing around, so I wasn't really bothered if I missed anything. I'm generally intrigued on playing that area normally when it comes out, just to see what I missed and then try and skip it anyway just to see if they get patched out or not. But it does seem like this is going to be interesting. I want to see if some speedrunners pick this up just to see what they managed to do with it, because if my P-brain can figure these things out, they can probably figure out a lot better a lot quicker. Other than that though, the demo was just a fun experience overall. I'm really excited to see what happens on the 18th, where we go from here if the game releases and is critically acclaimed and everyone likes it, if it's a small little success that people like, or if it's just trash. But from the demo I've played, it seems like it's going to be a bit of a hoot, and I can't wait to try it. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.